This video will look at organizational growth. Let's look at the growth strategy. It involves the attainment of specific growth objectives by increasing the level of the firm's operations. So it's looking at achieving some specific growth objectives by increasing the level of the firm's operations. So the size of the business may change. It may increase in size, it may have more ability, more investment, better trained workforce. Overall, it's tooled up for growth, for expansion. And this must meet some growth objective that has been set out by the business in its corporate plans. Typical growth objectives for businesses may be to increase sales revenue. So to increase the amount sold or increase the price of its product, to innovate the product so that customers are willing to pay more and generate extra sales revenue as a consequence. The product is more popular amongst customers and they're willing to pay a bit more, so sales revenue will increase. So that may be one growth objective. It could be higher earnings or profits. There's a difference between revenue and profit, obviously. So it may be that it's trying to grow to cut its cost, its average costs. By growth, it's able to gain economies of scale, economies due to its size. So it may be able to negotiate discounts on purchases or have specialization, specialized machinery, or it may be able to negotiate good terms with the banks because of its size. So there are various economies of scale that may come into play, and thereby, as growth takes place, the earnings or the profits tend to increase. It could be other measures of performance. For example, the share of the market may be taken into account and how well is it doing vis-a-vis its competitors. So there are various measures of growth that can be put into play, can be used. Growth objectives for non-profit businesses will be different, of course. It could look at increasing the number of clients served or the number of patrons attracted. If it's a not-for-profit business, then it wants to perhaps widen its coverage and serve more people or more organizations or whatever the line of work it does. So it might want to increase its presence in that particular activity. It may, of course, just broaden its geographic area. If it's a non-for-profit business, let's say operating in London, it might now want to work in Birmingham or Leeds or Manchester as well. So it may broaden its geographic area. Increasing the programs offered. It may currently be a non-for-profit business who's supplying, let's say, skill training for young people. Well, now it might want to increase the programs to include more academic subjects like mathematics or English or science or whatever. So it might want to widen what it does, and it would measure its growth in that way. So we have growth objectives for businesses, commercial business, and we have growth objectives for not-for-profit businesses. But the idea is overall that we're getting an expansion of the activities of the business. So organizational growth, well, it could be horizontal. Now here we're classifying it, how far is it from the customer? Well, horizontal means it's in the same area. It's developing horizontally. So let's say if it has a shop on the high street selling clothing, then it might open a second shop selling just a different style of clothing. It's horizontal integration. It might collaborate with another shop on the high street, or it might open a new one itself. It's horizontally integrated. It's integrating at the same level, the same distance from the final customer. Both are retailers, let's say, so they're operating that. It could be both are producing metal components for the car industry, and the two companies start to collaborate. So you could have economic growth through collaboration, and because both of them are producing components for the car industry, it's horizontal integration. It could be vertical. Vertical is moving closer to the customer or away from the customer. Vertical is closer or further from the customer. If it's towards the customer, it's called forward vertical integration. It's moving forward. It's closer to the customer. So previously the business was making some consumer product, and now it's opened outlets to sell it directly to the public. That's vertical forward integration. Or it could be backwards. Vertical backwards means it's going away from the customer. It's going back in the supply chain. So it's making a product, let's say, for customers, but now it's forming relationships with the suppliers of the raw materials that it uses. So it's vertical backward integration. It could be international. It could want to expand by opening outlets overseas in different markets, or forming relationships or alliances or collaboration with companies overseas and trying to achieve growth in that way. It could be diversification. It tries to make a new product which is related to the existing one because it's got the technology, it's got the know-how, it's got the core competencies within the business to make a particular product. So now it tries to make a related product. So it's diversifying with a related product. Or it could, of course, it could be unrelated, in which case it's quite a radical departure from what it's doing right now. And there would have to be retraining and perhaps new capital brought in and new equipment. A new part of the business would have to be opened in effect. It's unrelated diversification. And concentration. It may just simply try to expand its own activities so it becomes more concentrated in the sense it's got a bigger presence in the market. It's the market is to some extent more concentrated because this company has grown more and more of the market is concentrated into the activities of this business and concentrated around the activities of this business. So let's talk about concentration strategy. It's a growth strategy where the firm concentrates on its primary line of business. So it's trying to get growth by concentrating on its primary activities. The primary activities being, let's say, making a particular component, making a particular product. That's its primary business. So it tries to concentrate on that and it tries to get growth based on that particular line of activity. And it looks for ways to meet its growth objectives through increasing its level of cooperation and operation in the primary business. It tries to cooperate perhaps with other companies, or it simply tries to increase its own level of operations in the primary business. It tries to expand what it's doing. It tries to perhaps take a bigger market share. It looks at its competitors, looks at what they're doing, and it attempts to outmaneuver them, outcompete them by having a better quality product, better design, meets customers' requirements more precisely. And if it wins, if it manages to take a bigger market share, then the industry, in a sense, is more concentrated. Power is more concentrated. The market is more concentrated because this one producer is now occupying a bigger slice of the market. When a single business organization pursues growth, it is using the concentration strategy. So a single business organization trying to grow in this way by growing its size of the market, growing its presence in the market, it's becoming more concentrated. There are 4 concentration strategy options. First of all, we'll deal with products and customers, and you can see what I'm going to develop here in a second. But we have products and customers, and then we have the current customers and the current products. Well, if it develops products which meets the requirements of current customers and is doing it with the current products, then it's the product market exploration. It's trying to explore the existing market and looking at the product market relationship, looking at what it's doing in the market and trying to grow with its current customers, get the current customers to have more of the product, more of its existing product. It could be that it's looking for new customers with its current product, in which case we call it market development. It's trying to develop the market. It's got a certain range of products. Now it's trying to get new customers for those products, so it's market development. It could be the current customers with new products, in which case it's product development. So it's current customers but with new products, product development. It could be new customers with new products. Now this is product market diversification. So there are different strategies for growth that we can identify. Product market exploration option. Now let's look at each of these in turn. Let's go back for a second. Let's just look at product market exploration and market development, product development and so on. Let's look at these in slightly more detail. So product market exploration. This describes attempts by the firm to increase sales of its current products in its current markets by depending on its functional and competitive strategies. So it's trying to increase sales of its current products in its current markets. So what it's trying to do is look at its competitive strategies. How is it doing against its competitors currently? Looking at its current customers and its current products. How is it doing against its competitors? What are its functional advantages? Has it got efficiencies? Can it develop efficiencies? Can it reduce the price? Can it market the product more effectively? So it's dealing with its current customers and in its current market. Product development option. Well, the firm creates new products for use by its current market. So it's the development of new products in the current. It knows perhaps what the current market is. Feedback from the marketing department tells it what the current customers are looking for, what their aspirations are, what their requirements are, what they would like to see. And it may be able to set and train a whole research and development set of activities which will ultimately bring about a product which will be new but for the current market, based on the feedback it gets from the current market. Now that of course could be used in other markets, but it just so happens that the feedback is for the current market, so it's primarily aimed at the current market because it knows that the current customers will be interested in this. So it'll help to stabilize the business, or it could help to get additional sales and grow the business. The market development option. When a firm sells its current products in new markets, additional geographic areas or market segments not currently served by the firm. So it takes its current products and tries it out in new markets. Sometimes this happens in an international context. The company is making a certain line of products, it's selling it domestically, it enjoys a certain percentage share of the market, and it wishes to grow. It may take the product and sell it under license, perhaps in another country. So it finds a strategic partner in the other country and arranges for that partner to market the product and sell the product and even produce the product under license in that country. And in that way the company will expand its activities. Product market diversification option, where a firm seeks to expand both into new products and new markets. This one is quite ambitious. It's taking new products to new markets. This is very entrepreneurial. This is very risky. But if it works out, it could be a valuable source of growth and additional lines of revenue. So it's looking at new products. It could be related to the existing product, but perhaps totally new. Looking at a different aspect of the market. But it's taking it to new markets as well. So it's new products to new markets. Very entrepreneurial, very pro-risk. Shows a lot of character about the management, that they're prepared to do this, to take on a new market, learn about the new market, gain an expertise in the new market, do a lot of market research and find out different contacts in the market. It's very expensive. And then make an entirely new product and deliver it to that market. It's a very ambitious thing to do. In this case, single business firms become a multiple business firm, since it's now operating in even in different industries. It could be totally radically different product. It doesn't have to be in the same industry even. It could be that the company is currently making something in the manufacturing side, maybe car components. That could be its current product. But now it's making furniture in a different market. Totally radically different. Very unusual thing to do in some respects. Generally speaking, companies like to have some knowledge of the market. They like to have some knowledge of the supply chain and costs, and a lot of research would have to take place. So very ambitious strategy. Product market exploration option describes attempts by firms to increase sales of its current product in its current market by depending on its functional and competitive strategies. So it's trying to grow its presence in its current market using its current products. The only way it can do this is really by trying to introduce some degree of innovation. It may have a very successful marketing campaign, or it may reduce its costs by trying to find efficiencies inside the organization and thereby cut its price and become more competitive. But generally speaking, looking at its existing products in the existing market, there may be limited opportunities for growth. It may be possible, but if it does, it'll have to look at its own functional activities to see if it can find efficiencies, cut its price, or slightly modify the product, if possible, in which case you would say it's not the same product, of course. But if it's only a small modification, it's ipso facto the same product. But very, very limited opportunities. It could be down to very successful marketing and perhaps having a very good marketing team who get to know the customers and can attract customers across from competitors. Product development option. Create new products for use in its current market. It knows the current market. Its marketing department feedback, contacts with current customers. They know the requirements of the customers and what the customers would like to see and so on. And this information is being fed back perhaps continually from the marketing department. So eventually they're able to create new products that they think will interest the customers, interest its current customers and in its current market. So it maybe have the opportunity to product develop the product, develop even its product range that are offered to this particular segment of the market, the one in which it operates. The advantages of concentration strategy. Well, the organization becomes very good at what it does. So it gains advantage by learning by doing. It becomes adept at production, very efficient at production. It makes more of the product, it has a greater throughput, so it gains all sorts of efficiencies in terms of utilization of machinery, the throughput, the turnover of stock in the stores. So it benefits in many ways. The organization can become very good at what it does. The drawback of concentration, well, the organization is vulnerable to industry and other external environmental shifts, which is the case as the organization becomes vulnerable because the industry may change. And if the business has tied a lot of resource into the market and now the industry is changing, or there are external environmental issues, not necessarily related to the environment, it could be the legal issues or societal issues, change in tastes, change in customers' requirements, or it could be the environment. It could be that the industry is now seen as producing products which damage the physical environment, damage the climate or whatever. So if it's invested a lot in trying to grow the business, grow its own business, and suddenly it's vulnerable to these changes, then it is exposed. And it's a drawback of the concentration strategy. Perhaps it would have been better to have developed the business and then try to diversify into related businesses and gradually get rid of the risk, produce different products for slightly different markets, and in that way diversify the risk. And if one part then suddenly became vulnerable because of external environmental shifts or changes in industry or changes in the conditions of competition within the industry, if that particular company was under pressure, it has the alternative. It has grown up a second business, perhaps a related technology, so that it can have economies between the two of them, but a related business where they're able to withstand the changes. Concentration strategy is used by both small-sized and large organizations. So it's not particularly limited to small companies. Sometimes in these classes I tend to suggest we're talking about small companies or small medium-sized companies, the SME sector, small to medium-sized enterprises. But it could apply to large companies. They want to increase their concentration, they want to increase their presence in the market, their visibility in the market. But again, the same drawbacks apply and the same advantages apply as well. So this talk has been about growth, the possibilities of growth and some ways in which businesses can grow, and also looking at concentration and looking at the drive to increase the size and the presence of a company within a market, and looking at some of the issues involved in doing that. And that's all I'm going to deal with in this class. So I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.